Buenos días a todos, mi nombre es Alberto Reyes y regresamos en el podcast favorito de toda la comunidad, Together Somos Más. Voy a dejar un minuto para que mis compañeros se presenten. Kyle.
Muy buenos días a todos, Marifer, Alberto y todo el mundo de Galeo del estado de Georgia. Aquí estoy tomando mi café, entonces sigo vivo.
Buenos días. Ya es noviembre y ya por fin hace frío. Soy Marifer Vizcaíno y bienvenidos.
Sí, gracias. Como hoy sí me está faltando ganas de levantar, ocupo el café, como Kyle dice, ya se acerca el frío, uno se quiere quedar dentro de la cama, pero seguimos adelante por la comunidad. Algo grande que pasó en noviembre, claramente las finales del béisbol, toda la gente lo estaba buscando. Oh, no, ¿verdad? No, algo pasó diferente.
Bueno,
Claramente, también. Claramente las elecciones, algo que la comunidad personalmente no fue el final que esperábamos, pero al final de cuentas seguimos adelante y dando esa voz a todos los latinos que están aquí en Georgia. Personalmente yo me quedé despierto viendo cómo los resultados poco a poco iban favoreciendo a Trump, pero en ese mismo tiempo pues dejé de pensar y realizar más lo que viene para el 2025. Marifer, ¿algo que quieras comentar?
El día de las elecciones también trabajé Election Protection, entonces estuve cansada. A lo mejor porque estuve en un condado demócrata, me fui a la casa ilusionada.
Uh-huh. Claro.
Pero igual, de todos modos, yo pienso que algo bueno siempre sale de cuando no tenemos los resultados que queremos y sabemos dónde y cómo podemos trabajar en nuestra comunidad, cómo mejorar y no, it's not the last of us. Mm-hmm. It's not over.
Kyle, you have any words that you thought about Tuesday, or how you've been processing the dates?
Yeah, I think it's a lot for our community to process. I think I'm still processing. We're all still processing. And that's why I think this episode is going to be so important. We have some great guests, Cristian Ramos, who is a figure nationally who can talk about the Latino perspective, to talk about the Latino vote all across the country, as well as what we saw during this campaign and how to move forward. We have some great staff members from here, from Galeo, and then the Galeo Impact Fund. We're going to be speaking with Alberto and Marifer. And then later in our La Pinche Politica segment, I'll be talking with Senator Jason Esteves to talk about what happened here in Georgia and how we can continue to move Georgia forward, regardless of what outcome we saw last week. And so this is important because what happened Tuesday affects us all. Whether you're immigrant, child of immigrant, non-immigrant, documented, undocumented, and we'll certainly be talking more about that because we're going to keep fighting for our Latino community and for our immigrant community.
Yeah, it's just one day will not decide the future of our community. We have received tons of support, to stay positive, to, as you said, just think about what happened and then continue moving forward. Thank you to our all guests, our volunteers, our canvassers, everyone that put a great fight together for not just Georgia, but across all over the United States for the Latino community. So coming right up, we'll have our guest, Cristian, for the first interview. So we'll be right back after this video.
This country was founded by immigrants, and the way that we are treating the immigrant community now is appalling. And every single one of us, our families are descendants of immigrants. And we need to make sure that this country is as welcoming as we say we are.
Oh, the system is broken. Broken. Everybody will tell you it's broken. So why don't we fix it? We as a nation have not had the political will to really fix the problem. And what happens is, particularly at the federal level where immigration is, that's Congress is the ones who can fix it. right? But they get in this back and forth and yakety yak, and you're one open borders, and you hate everybody who's, doesn't look like you. And nobody is trying to fix the situation. Not enough people are stepping up and trying to find solutions. And we have to find solutions, in my mind, that the folks who have immigrated here, who didn't go through the proper channels because those proper channels are blocked and difficult, we need to find a way to make a path to citizenship for those folks who live here, who are neighbors, who are working hard and raising their families and following the rules. We have to find a way to fully make them a part of our broader community, and we have to find a way to unbreak the system.
An ongoing battle for us, for Galeo and the partners here in the state for a long time. It's been a very frustrating issue because we keep receiving promises from elected officials, and those promises are continually broken. So we are continuing our message of, if enough is enough, now is the time for immigration reform. Now is the time for genuine paths for citizenship and ways to really help our community, because the immigration issue is one that deeply affects our community, and it's one that is tied to access to many other resources and many other opportunities, and it really affects our community.
Immigration reform has always been kind of at the heart of the work that Galeo Impact Fund has done through their support of immigrants. And I say immigrants generally. Here in the state of Georgia, we have a large diaspora of immigrants, not only of Latino background, but those of African countries, those of Asian and AAPI communities, those other immigrant communities from disparate religious backgrounds, such as Muslim community. And the reason that I bring up these other communities is that the work that Galeo does is to favor immigrant rights and immigrant access to the American dream. And so we're uniquely positioned where we have grown together amongst those communities. We're uniquely positioned because we work with a cross-section of immigrant communities to ensure that we have equitable and equal access to the laws, that we have equitable access to resources.
We need a system that makes sense for the humans that want to come here, that they're treated humanely and they're treated with dignity, but there are rules to follow, but make them rules that are followable, right? And then we need to stop creating this hatefulness about it, and we can do that. We're in America. We send a man to the moon, right? There aren't problems we can't solve. We just need more people willing to get in and take the steps to solve them. Our economy needs the workers. Fix it. We need the workers. And that's what we need to understand, that we need the workers. Immigrants make our country strong. We're a nation of immigrants. When did we decide immigrant was a dirty word? That's not America. It's not the America I believe in. And we can find solutions. It's hard. I'm not trying to act like it's easy, but we've got to fix the very broken system.
So we continue to do that work and continue that advocacy and educating our elected officials on the experiences of our undocumented Latinos in the state of Georgia and of people going through this, broken system. It can be a financial burden, an emotional burden on our community's most vulnerable members.
Immigration rights and being able to continue to push for equitable and equal protection of immigrants in our state and in our country is a value not only to that community, but it's a value to our state.
And we're back. Marifer, Kyle, we're la sección Lo que nos importa. Something quick, something refreshing, something that we have seen in the last couple of days that, we can reflect, that we would like to share on the community. Marifer, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thank you. I think I've noticed, at least within my inner circles, how much resilience there is. Of course, the election results, at least for myself, someone who has DACA, my parents are undocumented, my sister has DACA. We're all scared about what could come, but my parents remind me every day, like, we are here, we've been here for over 25 years. So if they can't, you can't get rid of us. So if they haven't already, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep trying. And it's important that we focus also on our local elections and make sure that we reach out to our local officials and let them know that there is a federal landscape, but they're also that we're here. And there's also to engage with them to make sure we're protected. But I'm not gonna lie, I did cry after the election results. I felt so vulnerable, if I could be vulnerable with you guys. But I think I'm now in a headspace where I know working with you guys, we can accomplish a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Ánimo a todos. And for me, just as you say, as soon as the results came in, I got texts from family and friends showing support and with questions. So that's something that we're continue here at Galeo and Galeo Impact Fund going to continue working in providing that information to the community, how to prepare, how to stay active with elected officials in the local government, what to look forward. And yeah, as we have continued been saying the message, estamos aquí, we're going to continue fighting. Kyle, any messages, something que te importa?
Yeah, I think obviously everyone here, the results were hard to see and to I guess kind of ingest. But I think our work, especially our advocacy work, has never been more important. It is so important that we continue to fight for our community, engage our community, and understand what challenges our community is facing. And I think that's why we're going to continue to do the work that we do. We're going to do more events where people can be more informed, and that's why we encourage everyone to follow us on our socials at Galeo Impact Fund, because we're going to be putting out a lot of information. We're going to be doing town hall events with attorneys, immigration attorneys, attorneys who specialize in estate planning, as well as doing events with local town halls, with local officials who have a strong or large Latino constituency, because it is so important that our officials, especially our local and state officials, hear from our community over, not just over the next 4 years, but for generations to come, because we're not going anywhere, and our issues matter. And, I always say that Latino issues are working family issues. And so, our issues are relevant, not just to within our community, but all across our state, all across our country. So we have our work cut out for us. There's no denying that. But I feel, after the last few days, I've had the chance to interact with, different segments of our community, and they've inspired me to continue doing this work, and to, just because we're not going to let one election bring us down. Galeo's been here for 20 years. Galeo Impact Fund's been here since 2019. So we're here to stick around, and our community needs us.
Yeah, claro que sí. Now, so thank you, everyone. Now we're coming up on a short break, and we're going to have our first interview, Christian Ramos. We will be right back.
And we are back with Christian Ramos, our special guest. He's the founder and principal for Autonomy Strategies. You might have seen him on any variety of national news shows, in articles, newspapers. So, Christian, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, to help our community and our viewers kind of better understand how we got where we are today and how we're going to move forward. Oh, I think
we have some microphone issues.
Well, let me unmute. Thank you so much for having me here, and I really appreciate you all taking the time to have this conversation. It's very important right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's go ahead and dive right in. What were some of the major themes that we saw nationally in this election, and what do you think were kind of the deciding themes?
So I think there's three things that I would like to point to. Stuff that we saw before the election, stuff that we saw during the election, and then stuff after that I think we need to clear up. Number one, the economy was critically important to Latinos all over the country. The price of goods, the price of homes, of living situations was very important. Having said that, I think one of the things that is misinterpreted about what happened this cycle was that Latinos actually very much liked the policies that were put forward by Democrats. What they didn't like was that we didn't have a story about why they were experiencing what they were experiencing. We didn't have a reason for what they were experiencing at the grocery store or everywhere else. Donald Trump did have a story about what they were experiencing, and he was able to empathize in that way with enough Latinos that we were able to see a shift among those voters. And I think that's a critically important part of this conversation, because what we saw on election day is that there were a lot of Latinos and voters in general who said, I don't like Donald Trump. I like Kamala Harris more, but I'm still pulling the lever for Trump. I'm going to vote for him because I think he will lower prices, because he understands what is happening in my community and what's happening to me, and he'll do something about it. And so we had a lot of policies to fix these things, and I would argue we actually did lower prices considerably. We did not do that work of empathizing with the community in a way that made them understand that we got it, that it was corporations that were price gouging them, that it was the mega rich who were trying to divide us for their own gain. Those populist messages actually really work within the Latino community. They just didn't hear that from us enough. I'm not going to say that we didn't say this. Some people did. And some of the, it was in the campaign's rhetoric towards the beginning, but at the end, we didn't talk enough about that. And then finally, the last part I will say about the election, I think this is very important. Mass deportation and the anti-immigrant rhetoric is not popular with Latinos when they fully understand what it means. Work that we did with the Valiente Action Fund, work that we did with Way to Win, research found very clearly when you outline and you explain exactly what is going to occur in people's communities, they reject it. Mm-hmm. And that's something that sadly we're going to experience some version of that now. And I do think politically that is going to be disastrous for the Republican Party, because I don't think it's just Latinos who are going to be turned off by that. I think most voters, once they see what it entails, how much it costs, are going to reject it.
Right. Thank you, Christian. What was the perception or the narrative when we're talking about economy and immigration? Our community has a high percentage working in constructions, farming, service. So if the Republican narrative was about like we're gonna increase or better the economy, but at the same time, affect immigration, what do you see that story going forward in 2025?
So I think, look, this is also something that is broadly misunderstood here. What Donald Trump did was he said to the older immigrants that are here, the newer immigrants that you are competing, and we're going to get rid of the newer immigrants. And then he said that will benefit you economically because you guys are competing against each other. And I think that was a persuasive argument to some of the other folks who had been in the country longer, unfortunately. And I think they are about to be in a rude awakening on that issue, because a lot of them think the people who have been here longer think that they're not going to be caught up in that. We heard in focus groups, we heard in conversations with people in the communities, that's the guy down the street. That's not me. I'm one of the good ones. They're gonna deport me. And so we're gonna see how that goes, unfortunately. And it is very scary that we're in this position currently.
Absolutely. And thank you for pointing that out. I kind of want to touch on the earlier point you made about a lot of the kind of populist rhetoric that we, saw, throughout this election cycle, especially from the Republican side. Right now, there seems to be a big debate between, within the Democratic ecosystem, right, about what Democrats could have done better, what messaging, how they should have changed their messaging. Do you see it as kind of more binary, as some of this debate seems to be, as as the moderate wing versus the progressive wing, and one wing has more responsibility for the outcome of this election than the other, or do you think it's more nuanced than that? What do you think Democrats need to do or change in order to avoid more kind of defeats like they saw on Tuesday?
So I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to go real big, and then we're going to get to what you're saying, okay? Because this is a big question.
Yes.
Look, you have to look at how people actually voted this cycle, right? I see a lot of stuff on the internet. Oh, Latinos, swung the election for Trump. Da 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 da. Latino men make up 4% of the electorate, right? And they voted, depends on where you're looking, 50, 30, 55% for Trump. Women, white women, writ overall, are 40% of the electorate. They voted at 55%. White men are 35% of the electorate, 59% for Donald Trump. So there was a shift in the vote. I'm not going to say there wasn't, but it was not because of Latinos that we lost this election.
Right.
There was a broader story here that occurred, and I would argue that it was around the cost of living and so on and so forth. And I go back to this question of who's voting in these election cycles. There was a bet that was made that people in the suburbs, white women and white men, that we could bring them over to our cause here. And there was an effort to do that, but we have to figure out how to talk about the economy and these populist things in ways that resonate with Black, Latino, and white voters. If we had been able, and AAPI and all of these other groups that make up the coalition that the Democrats need to win. And so I don't think it's a left-right axis. I think it's are we speaking to the issues and the needs of the voters that we're trying to reach? And I think the commonality between each of those groups, right, white men, white women, Latinos, Black, all of those folks, is they were really pissed about the cost of living. Mm-hmm. And we didn't speak to that enough in a way that told the story of here's why that's happening. Here's what we've done. We have more to do. And so, absolutely, Georgia's economy is tied to immigrants and immigration, and that's a part of it, right? We have to keep all of those stories together, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think, I think it's doable. I think we can do that in the future, but it's going to take some thinking and some conversations. And I don't think there's any benefit in this left, this moderate progressive fight. We're on the same team, and we have to find a way to move forward together.
Absolutely. And, I think not to move already to the midterms to 2026, but we're going to have some very important elections in 2026, especially here in Georgia. We're going to be electing a governor. We're going to be electing a senator, whether that's Senator John Ossoff, who will be up for re-election, or whoever ends up opposing him. What would be your biggest recommendations or suggestions to Democrats on, how they, specifically to the Latino community, reach out to constituents over the next 2 years? And in that, what kind of messaging would you hope to see in the 2026 midterms?
Well, don't back down. Our policies and the things that we stand for are popular. And I go back to the economy. We have to figure that out. But everything else we stand for, reproductive rights, civil rights, immigration, climate, fighting for a clean climate, that stuff is popular with voters, right? We have to communicate those things to voters. This is what we stand for. These are the good guys. These are the bad guys, and very clearly do that. And we can win. I'm convinced that Donald Trump is going to overreach in his first year. He's going to do mass deportation is going to be super unpopular. Tariffs are going to be super unpopular and raise prices. All of these things that he's proposing, he wants to get rid of the ACA. Those things are unpopular with voters. And if we do our work and we tell that story about how, you know, we're for these communities and not let them divide us, right? If we don't get into this war, these fights that I think folks are going to want to have, I think we'll be okay.
Yes, and I think to your point, we saw a lot of that. Maybe I don't know if cognitive dissonance is the word, but when especially swing states voted for Democratic governors or senators or representatives, but still overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. Could you maybe speak a little bit about that? Maybe why that is and how that, how maybe we could see that in other swing states like Georgia?
Yeah, I think, can you
rephrase?
So voters voted for Trump, but they did or did not vote for the lower ballot folks.
Right. I think what Maddie first talking about is like, you know, Trump he swept all of the swing states, right? But at the same time, we saw a Democrat get reelected in Wisconsin. We saw Ruben Gallegos get elected in Arizona. So how do we square that? Because supposedly, you know, I've read numerous articles over the last several years saying people don't split tickets anymore.
Right.
Obviously, that's not as true. So can you speak to that?
Gallego and Tammy Baldwin were both focused on cost of living issues.
Mm-hmm.
They were both focused on workers and the middle class. Their campaign was very, very focused on that from the beginning. And that was the difference maker. I do think the people who focused on the pocketbook issues, right, with their voters and clearly communicated that, were rewarded at the polls. People voted for them. And so I think the other piece here, to that end, we have to get closer to voters. We have to get to where they are. Look, immigration, people like immigrants. People like that, but we have to be full-throated in our defense and say, look, immigrants bring down the cost of living for everyone. Immigrants provide, you know, cultural and economic things to our country, and we should embrace them, and we should find ways to create more legal pathways to help them. Not, you know, MAGA light stuff. That's not going to help us. Voters want to see differences. You know, they want to see how you're different from the other side. So we have to be able to say, yes, we're pro-immigrant, and we want to find a way to help people contribute to this country, and we should create a legal and orderly process for people to enter the country. That's very popular stuff with voters, but we have to say it. And so that is also an economic argument that is persuasive to voters when we make it.
Yes, and I have heard many takes where people doesn't know that immigrants provide into the Social Security system without getting any of the benefits. So as you mentioned, you know, there's a high percentage of positivity about that. We have about a few minutes. Any final messages, Christian, something that you personally or your organization are looking into 2025?
Look, I know that this was a terrible, awful election, and we are not in a good place. But I do see opportunity here to rebuild, to get stronger, to win these fights, because we have to.
Right.
And at this point, we have to be there for our immigrant familia. We have to be there to make the case for a democracy and reproductive rights and how we're going to help workers. And I just, again, MAGA and what it stands for, when voters actually see it in practice, it's not going to look good. And I think we have to be positive and be ready to take advantage of those moments to win in 2025. And I think we can, and I think we will.
Yeah, we definitely be here. Thank you again for your work on your organization here at Galileo as well. Do you have any social medias that you would like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, please follow me on Twitter at Cromos 1841.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much, Christian Ramos. Thank you, Marifer. Thank you, Kyle. We'll be right back after this break. That was soon. And we're back with Latinos en Acción with my great friend, Derek Alvarez. Derek, tell us, the listeners, a little bit about yourself if they have not listened to our October episode.
Yes, thank you, Alberto. Good morning, everyone. My name is Derek Alvarez. I'm Director of Civic Engagement at Galeo and Galeo Impact Fund. But so excited to be here again this morning speaking to you all.
Yes. So let's start with first, how do you are processing, the outcome between you, and then we'll talk about a little more about civic engagement.
Yeah. Well, I think Kyle said it best earlier. We all kind of took the weekend to process and think about what's next. I know it's been a tough time for us personally, our friends, our families, but I think what we continue to see among, like what Christian said, what you all shared earlier, is that there is a hope, a resilience, and I absolutely believe that there's a bunch of work to come in the upcoming years, but I feel very prepared for it. I'm ready for it, and I think we're structured in a way to be able to have successes in 2026 and in 4 years.
Yes, and talking about work, please share with the audience a little bit of how the Galeo Impact Fund Civic, how was the last 2 weeks when we're trying to motivate and engage the community.
Yeah, well, first I want to say thank you to you, Alberto, to staff, and our canvassers. Absolutely, yeah, we had such a busy October, knocking on doors from Whitfield County to Hall County, Cobb County, and Gwinnett County. So we had, I think, we had a good time. A couple of times we had gone up to Dalton, Kyle, Jerry, and myself to knock on doors. But overall, we knocked on 12,000 doors. We had a contact rate of about 24%, which is higher than the national average. So it's really great. I think voters see us. We speak Spanish to them. We look like them, and so the answer rate has been really well, and the conversations have been pretty good. They're responding well and very enthusiastic, and so that also kind of feeds my soul a bit, or gives me hope for the next year's coming, because of all the emotion and passion that voters had while we were in the field, and even to voters who had seen us just walking around honking their horns at us in a nice way, yes, waving, saying hello, saying thank you, seeing our Galeo Impact Fund shirts. So all of that is very, very uplifting, and I have no doubt that our community will continue having the same attitude as we move forward in the work that we do.
Claro que sí. As you mentioned, the community was strong. We're strong, united. We will continue bringing all that great effort into 2025 and many years to come as well. Do you have any final words or something that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, well, again, I just want to say thank you to our canvassers and staff. At Galeo Impact Fund, we had a major focus in Cobb and Gwinnett specifically, because we were getting our voters to vote for not only Vice President Kamala Harris, but our endorsed candidates, and also the transit referendums happening in Gwinnett and Cobb. And so we were having full conversations, pushing on Vice President Harris, our amazing endorsed candidates, which you can see on our Galeo Impact Fund website, and transit. So the conversations were great, absolutely, and from every angle of interest. If someone didn't care much about the president, but they were very interested in what was happening locally, right? It's a reminder that local elections are extremely important and sometimes have a bigger, more direct effect on our lives.
100%.
But the fight keeps going, and so So I'm very ready to do that. I'm very lucky to have people like you, Alberto, along my side to do it as well.
Oh no, I'm also very blessed to have the team, everyone supported. And as a positive message, we also gonna remind our listeners about our Vamos Pa Fuera green initiative. That's where we are focusing on the environment. Everyone voted with their economy and mindset. Oh yes, that's completely fine, but we need to take care of the planet. We will have great events coming up for volunteers to sign up. We will have great workshops, great information. Everything is coming on the words. Derek, are you excited for Vamos Pa Fuera 2025?
I'm so excited to see the program grow into what it has been. I think one of the things we've been most excited about this past year is that we were able to have a partnership with Patagonia and Latinx hikers. And so we had a week for Latino Conservation Week of events. And so we obviously took a break from all that to focus on election work, but very much excited to hop back on that momentum and bridging the gap between Latinos and the conversation about the environment.
Yes.
So please make sure to follow our Vamos Pa Fuera events, and we have a little tab on glow.org for Vamos Pa Fuera.
Yeah, and thank you, Patagonia. Definitely should be sponsor more events. So if you know anybody contact working there, let us know. That we hosted really fun events, the cacao ceremony, the hiking under the moonlight. So like I said, we all enjoyed our environment. We all deserve to have a planet that is well taken care of here in our community, in our local community, in our parks, in our everything that has a green initiative. So that's it, Derek. Any social medias that we should follow up?
Glow Impact Fund.
And I am Galeo.
And I am Galeo, and the website glowimpactfund.org, galeo.org. Our TikToks as well. I think we've been very heavy in the TikTok game. I haven't seen the videos, but I keep getting screenshots of the videos. So please check out those TikToks.
Yeah, we'll be dancing next year. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Derek. And we should be back with our next segment with Marifer and Ponte las Pilas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ponte las Pilas. I know you heard me talk about so many of our events this year, the summit, this series, GIL, and everything in between. So I wanted to present the woman of the hour, the leader of our department, and the person who makes all of those happen, Elizabeth Silva. Let's just call her Liz.
Welcome. Awesome. Thank you, Marifer. Buenos días a todos. My name is, I go by Liz, but I'm Elizabeth, Director of Leadership Development, and it's great to be here. It's been a busy year, but we're here.
I know we're reaching the end of most of our programming, or all of our programming. Last Saturday, November 2nd, was it last Saturday? Yeah. Or the week before, we had GIL graduation. I know this is one of the biggest cohorts we've had in a long time. Do you want to speak more about our experience with GIL and the cohort?
Yeah, definitely. So for those who aren't aware, the GIL program, it's known as the Galeo Institute for Leadership Program, where we work with UGA to get the curriculum from the Fanning Institute for Leadership. And it's an 8-month-long certification program where people from across the state, anybody 18 or older is welcome to join. And recently we just had their graduation where we had 34 impactful community leaders graduate. Thank you to the City of Forest Park and Councilman Hector Gutierrez for allowing us to host this celebration down in Clayton County. So super excited about, what happened at graduation. We had Brenda Lopez Romero be their keynote speaker and giving them insightful words to continue being an impact in the community, especially now more than ever, where we need to take these leadership skills and implement them in our community.
Absolutely. And the food was busting too. So now that GIL is over, we are clearly looking to recruit for next year. Our applications are open. We have the flyer here. If anyone's interested, they can scan the QR code. But we also have a bit.ly, which is for our audio listeners, bit.ly/2025 and in all caps GIL. Liz, I know I mentioned it to you before that this election has made it clear that now more than ever, we need leaders to step up to the plate and fill in these leadership positions to represent us Latinos in all spaces. And I think we're witnesses to the transition that these leaders make while in GIL. Could you give us an example maybe of someone that has that you've seen grow through the program?
Yeah, definitely. Too many to name, but usually we always see, for example, at the beginning, somebody who's a bit more introverted, but they're very good at their work. And then through the 8-month process, they're able to, then at the end, they're able to public speak in front of their cohort members, bringing that talent outside into the workforce. They're also better at networking. The importance of networking, it's so important. Things that take time to get adjusted to. So that's another thing that we see them grow with. And also getting more involved with their community. We do community projects, for example, with Big Brothers Big Sisters, Zoo Atlanta, Civil and Human Rights Center. So seeing them being more interactive outside of the classroom, that's something that we see them improve on. So there's a huge difference from that first session to that graduation day, where they're more comfortable and they've grown so much with their own leadership journey.
Yes, I think even I'm a testament to that. I graduated from the 2021 GIL cohort, and I saw the progress I made both personally and professionally from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely one of those prime examples. I've seen you growing a lot, just like a lot of the other graduates have been on the same pathway.
Yes, thank you. So one more thing, where are we going to be this Thursday?
So this Thursday, we will be at Georgia State University at the Atlanta campus. We will be there for the World Languages Day, telling people about Galeo and more specifically the Galeo Institute for Leadership program, as we are currently in the recruiting process for the 2025 cohort.
Absolutely. So if you're at Georgia State this Thursday, come check us out. We have a lot of information. And if not, just stop by to say hi. But right now, we're going to our next segment. Thank you so much, Liz, for taking the time to explain GIL. After this segment, we have Kyle and Senator Esteves, but not before this short video.
The GIL program, also known as the Galeo Institute for Leadership program, it was established in 2006, so it's close to the 20-year mark for that. And what we do is we work with UGA's Fanning Institute of Leadership, and we get their curriculum to compose a 1-year-long program for people around the state, leaders to join us, no matter what their background is, what their education experience is. What we prioritize is people taking the time to invest themselves, whether it's with public speaking, working in teams, making group decisions, building partnerships through communities. Those are just some of the courses that we offer, amongst many more. So we meet one Saturday a month from February till November. And we also have a Georgia State chapter, which is the same as the statewide cohort, but it runs throughout their school calendar, so fall and spring semester. And we are close to 900 alumni. I'm on my 5th cohort since my time with the leadership team, and we have a team of about 30 facilitators now. I really wish I had the time to name them all, but they all come from different industries, whether they work in the nonprofit sector, or they work in the corporate side of things, or they work in higher ed, which is a industry that's typically forgotten, and definitely, thankful for the people that come into GIL and then take those skills back, as well as people who are students that are giving it their all to give back to their families as first-generation students. Sign up now to get involved with our organization. Check our socials, contact us through our website. There's different ways for you guys to reach out and ask any questions you may have, but we really look forward to seeing you getting involved with our organization.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to La Pinche Politica. I'm Kyle, and here I have with me a very special guest, a longtime supporter of Galeo and the Galeo Impact Fund, former board member on both of our boards, as well as former chairman of our C3 board, Senator Jason Esteves. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Kyle. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today because, you're a former school board member, you're a legislator in the state Senate, and you're also an officer for the Democratic Party of Georgia. And so we're going to talk, a little bit about, how we move forward and what we're looking to. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, your reaction to the election results and what you think, happened there.
Yeah, well, it was certainly disappointing evening for those of us who were fans of the vice president. I was hoping for a better outcome, but we knew it was going to be a close race, and it turned out not to come on our side. But here in Georgia, we saw progress. We saw House Democrats net 2 seats. We saw our races in the Senate get tighter, which is good because that shows that progress is being made. And then all across the state, even though Democrats did not make the gains that we had hoped overall, there was still a strong showing, especially in the Latino community, where we saw more folks voting. And that's a good thing. We like to have people voting, even if we don't necessarily agree with everyone that they're voting for. The fact that we had record turnout means that something is working and that folks want to talk about these issues more, and they want their voices to be heard.
Absolutely. And I think it's an important point to make, right? That, we did see some great turnout from the Latino community. We're still kind of sifting through the numbers to see what exactly that turnout was. So far, it looks like we only saw a shift within the Latino voting community of 1% from Democrats to Republicans, with Democrats still winning a strong majority of Latino voters in the state of Georgia. Not to mention, there's going to be at least, I believe, 3 new Hispanic Latino legislators at the Capitol. I know Rashawn Kemp is going to be joining you on the Senate side, and then we have Gabriel Sanchez and Marian Santos, who are going to be heading to the House. What is it, because you're not necessarily new to the legislature anymore. What does it mean to you to see kind of the Hispanic Latino caucus within Georgia changing, evolving, and growing?
That was a nice way of calling me old, Kyle. Thank you. No, but it feels good because we are expanding our numbers. This is the highest number of Latinos that have been elected to the legislature. And I think it's representative of the momentum that the Latino community has generally. We are at least 10% of the state's population, which means that we have many more state legislators to elect before that percentage of the population is reflected in the Senate. But for now, I'm proud to say that that we're going to have more Latinos than ever. And I anticipate that what you will hear from the Latinos coming in on both sides of the aisle reflect the diversity and the views of the Latino community. So, too often, Kyle, we are seen as a monolith. And the reality is that there's as much diversity in the Latino community as there is everywhere else. And at the end of the day, what the vast majority of Latinos want is to live in safe communities where they have the opportunity to work at jobs with dignity and respect, and to bring home money so that they can put food on the table. And then they also expect there to be better opportunities for their children and grandchildren. So Democrats and Republicans alike should be talking about those issues as we campaign across the state.
Absolutely. And thank you for, bringing up that point. I think even within our new and expanding Hispanic Latino Legislative Caucus, we're seeing, that diversity of background and viewpoint, even though we don't necessarily have the correct ratio, right, according to population and our legislators. But it's so inspiring to see that that caucus growing and changing. And I thank you again for speaking to the issues and seeing the need to speak about the issues that even within our diverse, varied Latino community, there are some common threads, right, about economic opportunity for high-paying jobs, and ensuring that we bring down the cost of living here in Georgia and across the country. Looking towards next legislative session, what are some things that you are hoping to work on specifically for the Latino community and our community of immigrants here in Georgia?
Yeah, well, I'm going to focus a lot on kitchen table issues. I'm going to be focused on supporting our small businesses. Latinos are very entrepreneurial. We have a lot of small businesses, especially Latinas, who are driving that entrepreneurial spirit in our community. So I'm going to focus on small business support, because Republican leadership right now is very focused on big business and bringing these big projects to Georgia. But the reality is our small businesses is what drives our economy. Over half of all Georgians are employed by small businesses. So we have to make sure that we are focusing on them. And the other things are the basics that I think are the necessities of any quality state, any quality community. And that's focused on a great public education system, on quality access to healthcare, and ensuring that we have affordable housing. And for Latinos and everyone, having access to quality, safe, affordable housing is essential. And we should be talking about how we can make that happen. And frankly, how state leadership has tended to ignore those very issues, and in some cases exacerbate those issues. So I'm going to be highlighting the need to work on those issues. Unfortunately, Kyle, and you are down at the Capitol often, I don't think that's what we're going to be focused on as a legislative body this session. I think that Republican leaders are going to be focused on those culturally divisive issues that really impact a small number of people, and it's going to be to the detriment of the vast majority of us who just want the state to move forward and continue to grow.
Yeah, and I think that definitely speaks to the importance of paying attention to those state and local races, as voters, because I always say that the closer that an elected official is to home, the more direct impact they have on our daily lives. And so I think it speaks to the importance of the balance of power that exists at the Capitol and here in the state of Georgia. And you touch on an important point about talking about and working on these issues that our voters care about. We did our El Puente para la Gente survey not too long ago, and what our community of Latino voters told us is that their number one issues are cost of living, are expanding job opportunities, and access to housing, access to healthcare. And so I wonder, you mentioned, the reality that, we live in a state where we're led by Republicans. We have a Republican governor. Both chambers are led by Republicans. What are some areas of opportunity that you see for, working with Republicans? Because I know, you're big on relationship building. So, how do you see, your role in the state Senate of building relationships in such a way that you can actually get important policy priorities across the finish line?
Yeah, well, I try my hardest to build bridges and to work across the aisle. The reality is that all the major branches of government in Georgia, whether it's the legislative branch or the executive branch, are controlled by Republicans. So in order to get stuff done, we have to work with Republicans, and I'm more than happy to do that. And what I do is reach across the aisle and talk about issues that are important to Georgians. And I'm proud because of the relationships that I've been able to build with my colleagues. For example, we had the first hearing on providing in-state tuition to DACA recipients this year. And that was a huge accomplishment because it had not gotten a hearing in the Senate. at all. And during that hearing, I had several colleagues on the Republican side express interest in working together and moving that bill forward. So there's good news there. I also worked with my Republican colleagues to pass, and you talked about affordability, housing affordability, Kyle. I worked with my Republican colleagues to pass some property tax legislation to provide relief for property owners on the property taxes. So I have a record of working across the aisle, but at the same time, not being afraid to call out issues that need to be called out when they try to distract us with division and cultural issues. I call them out and try to focus them on economic issues, and I anticipate that will continue. But we cannot get into this space where we are cutting off the other side, just like we wouldn't cut off a family member who we may disagree with. I know I have people who voted for Trump in my family. I'm sure a lot of other people have folks who voted for Trump in their family. That doesn't mean that we stop working with them or stop talking to them. We have to continue to move forward because we know who they are and we know what their intentions are. And I firmly believe that Republican or Democrat, that there are people in the legislature who just want what's best for Georgians, and we just have to debate over how best to do that.
Well, thank you so much for, speaking to the importance of keeping the lines of communication open at our state's capital under the Gold Dome, while also speaking to the issues that our community cares about. I always say that, Latino family values are the exact same as working family values, right? And speaking to those kitchen table, pocketbook issues, it's just so important because, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of times these other issues that impact such a small, portion of our state, or relevant to such a small portion of our state, can become distracting and divisive. So, before we depart, I wonder if you can, because obviously, as I'm sure you know, a lot of our community is still processing, and many folks are still reeling from the results that we saw come out of this presidential election. What's giving you hope right now? What is, making you feel optimistic about the future for the Latino community of Georgia and for the state of Georgia in general?
Well, as my U.S. Senator, the great pastor, preacher, Senator Warnock says, keep the faith. Keep the faith. And just because there's a setback doesn't mean that you don't continue moving forward, because we do have to acknowledge that the progress is being made. And while Vice President Harris did not necessarily win the election, we have made progress in Latino engagement and moving that forward. While we didn't win all of the seats in the legislature we were hoping to win, we did gain 2 seats in the House. So we just have to keep that in perspective and acknowledge that that progress is being made, and we just have to learn from that progress. But we also need to learn from the setbacks and take all that information and game plan it out, because in 2026 we're going to have a pretty big election coming up, where we're going to be working to reelect John Ossoff as U.S. Senator. And then we're going to work to elect a new governor and lieutenant governor and on down the ballot. And if we want those folks to be aligned with our values, if we want those folks to be Democrats, then we have to learn our lessons from this cycle and move forward. That's the only way, because if we don't, then we'll continue to live in a state that is dominated by Republicans, and we'll continue to see increased costs, less services, and generally a way of life that is not as good as it could be if we all work together to move us forward.
Senator Esteves, thank you so much. I know you're going to continue to work with organizations like Galeo and Galeo Impact Fund and folks all across the state to keep our community, as well as other communities in Georgia, engaged throughout the upcoming legislative session, as well as the midterms in 2026, because you're right, we have to already be preparing for those important statewide races that we're going to see. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you so much for having me, and look forward to continuing to support Galileo.
Hello.
Hello.
That was the first.
That was the first, but we're here just like we're prepared to continue fighting. We're prepared for any technical difficulties that we encounter here.
We adapt. We
Yes,
adapt on the ground. We adapt virtually. We adapt everywhere.
Thank you so much to our listeners. Again, we're going to be back with our December episode, but in between, we do have a very important town hall preparation. We're just going to gather information for our community. Marifer, any information about that we'd like to share more?
Yes. So we're working on cementing the time and date. But one of the things that I've learned from the summit is that you can never plan for, or you never know what's going to happen, but you can plan for the unexpected. And that includes, especially for mixed family people or families with mixed status, who you're going to leave guardianship for your kids, who's going to have power of attorney over your properties, etc. So that's one of the messages that we have for this town hall, is just preparing for the unexpected, including with immigration as well, what documents you need to have ready, what can be done for the time being. And that's not to scare anyone, it's just para que no estén desprevenidos.
To be prepared, yes.
Yes.
And va a ser en español, so it'll be completamente accesible a las familias y va a ser virtual también, ¿verdad? Para que sea accesible para todas las personas. Kyle, any final words? Marifer? Oh, that was too short.
Okay, so yeah, so we're gonna have that town hall la primera semana de diciembre. Vamos a hablar con dos abogados que son expertos sobre la ley de migración y state planning y cosas así. Vamos a hablar sobre nuestros derechos, los derechos que tenemos, que son derechos constitucionales, porque no importa si eres migrante, eres ciudadano de los Estados Unidos, todos tienen derechos constitucionales. Entonces vamos a hablar sobre eso, y cómo podemos prepararnos por la administración del el presidente Trump.
Sí, claro que sí. Marifer tuvo también que tener una dificultad técnica, pero creo que en estos momentos podemos traer de nuevo a Derek o Liz para dar la despedida que tenemos, y a lo mejor nos pueda unir a Marifer. Deje ver producción. ¿Qué me dice producción? A ver si podemos. Okay, ¿cuál es el destino final? No. Ok, bueno.
¡Ey!
Se vino la gente.
Marifer! You brought your friends. Okay, I get it.
Alguien ponga la foto de Derek, pues luego nos despedimos. Pero, Marifer, ya que tú ya fuiste la de la sorpresa, ¿quieres decir las palabras para despedirnos?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Y recuerden todos, juntos,
somos más.
Somos más.
Together.
Let's do it again.
Okay. And remember, guys, together,
somos más.
Somos más.
There you go. Gracias.
Thank you, everyone.